Hello, welcome there to this tutorial today. Today, I want to teach you about auto search slash auto import. Okay, this is very instrumental when it has to do with your smart contract collection. For example, you see on OpenSea that when you key in an address of a smart contract that has ER721 enabled, it's going to just prompt you information about that particular smart contract if it's on the chain. Okay, and also if it's a person's wallet address, it's just going to prompt you that as well. So in this tutorial, I want to show you that, and then kind of make establish the foundation or the basics for you to be able to showcase or just list out collections by just entering the smart contract wallet address and then click enter, and then it shows you a drop down of that particular wallet collections and all of that. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you where it is on the blockchain. I'm going to be using Ethereum mainnet for this tutorial. We're not deploying anything on it. We're just going to utilize the information that that is already on the chain. So if you're set, hit and smash that like and subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Then let's jump into the tutorial. Hi, I want to quickly use this opportunity to show you our website. If you haven't known already, please, we have our books here listed here. Please check it out. All our books, our courses, Fullstack NFT marketplace, Fullstack NFT minting project, our premium courses that are very legit, our partnership and services sections where you can consult us if you need information. If you want to have a FaceTime with me, you can use this particular place to connect with me. Send me an email. If you want to strike a deal with me or something. Of course, also build you a project, build you your NFT walk, your NFT marketplace, your NFT minting project. So just check out everything. Get in touch with me, book a session with me, and all that through this website. So with that said, let's jump into the tutorial here. This is our project here. So it gives us our ability to actually enter that detail and be able to list out that wallet, that contract or wallet address information. So for example, let me check out this wallet address. Let's check it out. So I'm checking out the information, and I'm able to retrieve the information about this mutant ape yacht club. You can see the symbol, you can see the address, and you can see the balance on the smart contract right now. It's nothing. So when I click on it, I'll be able to view where it is on Etherscan, and I could see information about it. Okay, so with this method, you can actually do this by utilizing an API such that when you click on this, it's going to list out all the NFT transaction that or the collections on this specific wallet smart contract. So that is another use case that you can use this method that I'm teaching you right now to achieve. All right. So another thing is you can also search for a user wallet address. Okay. So for example, when I search for this wallet address, I am given the information about this person. You can see this is the balance on this person's wallet address as well, which is great. Okay, so this person has about 0.06 ethers. Okay, and this is his wallet details right here. All right, you can search many kind of collections. So I'm going to search another collection. So I'm searching this collection right now. This collection is called Saved Souls collection. All right, and you can see it has about 23 ETH in that particular wallet, and you can view the information here. This same contract, when you copy it and come to OpenSea and you click here, you can see that it's prompting you that Saved Soul as well, and which you can click here and you can see information about it. So this, you can implement the same thing that OpenSea just did by you just searching the collection by entering the wallet address or the contract address, and then it will list it out for you. Okay, so that is what we want to achieve in this specific tutorial, and if you're ready, let's jump into the game. All right, to kickstart this tutorial, I'm going to be using Gitpod because it's kind of faster and I don't want to go through a process of installing so many things on my computer. So I'm going to select my hard repository, okay, which is this Next.js. So you can just copy this repository from my GitHub, Git Repo. So you pick up this particular repository. So this is the repository you're going to use and you can paste it here. Great. And after doing that, sorry, you have to paste. Okay, select that. And you can either decide to use VS Code for desktop or for the browser. You understand? So either one of these works fine for desktop. Okay, so I'm going to continue working on this space. All right, so it's going to create the workspace for us and get it all open on VS Code. And once that is done, I'm going to come back. Let me expand that and also increase the, the, the font size so that you can see what I'm coding. Then say, yes, I trust this. So you can see Gitpod is installing the package dependencies, and once it's done, it's going to move forward. At this point, this app is done installing, and I'll click on this repo. This is what we are seeing, so our app is up and running, and that is great. One more thing is I don't want to leave it this way. I want to run yarn dev. Okay, so this is like the best way of doing it so that it could be compiling your code as you keep making changes in the file. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to come to these pages here. So in this app or index.page, let me hide this. This app, in this place, I'm just going to remove the rest of these codes to make the page a lot cleaner. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to say H4 hello world. Okay, so let us save this and check it out on the browser. So on the browser right now, this is offline. Is it? Okay, it's not offline. You can see hello world right here. So let's revamp it and remove unnecessary stuff from it. So for example, I don't want these two classes to be part of this. So I'm going to remove those classes. We don't need them. Okay, and call this auto search slash auto search import. Okay, so this is where we are. Now I'm going to paste in some dummy variable for my templates, how I want my interface to look like. Okay, so I'm going to take my time to work on this to remove any, error. So for now, just going to remove some of these, conflicting issues. All right. So I'm going to comment out this too. Going to need it later. All right. And okay. So we're not done. We need to import this link. This is coming from NextJs. So I'm going to say import link from next/router. Okay, so yeah, no, /link. Okay, so this is where this link is coming from. All right, what else do we need? We need to also import this. This is an Ethereum icon. So I'm going to say import this from, React icon /Ethereum /FE. Okay, so imported those. And you see that at least these are not giving me errors anymore. So what I need to work on next is this account info. All right, account info basically is a use state. So I'm going to say const account info set account info. and by default it's going to be null. Use state coming from React, and it should be null by default. And once I do that, okay, these information, this thing is screaming out like this because this is a TypeScript file. I'm not going to make, I want to rename it to JavaScript. So I'm going to rename this to, JS. And once I do this, okay, so you see that those errors are gone, and this is basically how it is. Okay, so as of now, we can decide to save this. You need to make sure you save this because this kind of updates information here. It's updating into JSX, so you save it as well. So at this point, let's check it out on the browser. So this is how it looks on the browser. Just NFT contract address search, okay, or you can call it NFT, contract address import / search, so you can say contract, address, contract address search / import. Okay, so that is what this does for us. So yeah, at this point, the next set of things is we want to, reveal the rest of the information that are down there. All right, so we don't have it yet, but I want to add it here. So I'm going to create a dummy, account, or let's just say info, right? So I'm going to set this information has basic standard stuff. Like I just feel like, let me take a standard address. Okay, right. So now let me replace it here. So it has an address. This is an object that has an address. Its contract is true or false to know whether this address is a contract address or just a dummy. This is an NFT name or a token name. This is the symbol, and this is the balance in it. So I'm just going to use it and save here. So when I save this and we'll come to the browser, oops. So we have an issue here saying this identical. I've not imported this. This has not been imported. So let's import it. All right. So where are you? This is identical right here. So I'm going to come here and import identical from React identicons. Take note here that these packages are pre-installed. Okay, so I have them added here like React icons and React /identicon. So I'm using those packages. That's why they are already here. I'm not installing them fresh again. So with this in place, let's save it and check it out. Okay, so this is basically the interface. All right, this is the interface that we have right now. And what I want to do is, whenever I enter an address issue, I want to create a system that it will use in fetching us the address information, and if it's a contract or not, all of those information, fetch it, and then it brings it to us. Okay, that is what we want to do, and let's do that in the next part of this video. So before we continue with the rest of this build, I want to do some very important key stuff. Okay, for example, I want that whenever we enter an address here, something should happen. You should check for the validity of that address, because Ethereum, addresses are special. They are 42 characters, and we need a way of being able to, tell if that contract address is correct. And one way we can do that is by, using a function. This is a function that is called isValid, and I'm passing an account information. This is going to be coming from Ethers.js. And of course, I already have Ethers.js installed as part of this package. You can see it here. So this ethers.js, we're using a utility called isAddress, which validates whether true or false that particular account that we're entering is a valid address. So afterward, I also want to set up a use state. This use state is used to hold the address that we're entering from the form. Okay, so what I mean by that is that this input form, where are you? Okay, this input form, I come in here and say the value of it is what? This address. All right, so and then address, and then we'll be able to set address as well. And not only that, want to be able to, indicate when there is a loading and an error. So if this address is being fetched from, the chain, that process could take some few seconds. So we want to be able to display to our user that this thing is currently being fetched. Okay, and if there is an error, the error will be what, set in this variable and it will be displayed. So to do that, you see this, all right? Oh, sorry. So this here, I'm uncommenting this. I'm only going to comment out this line. So this here, we only show up if there is a loading. Okay, loading is true. Okay, what we want this to do is to show up this thing called loading. Otherwise, it won't really show up. All right, so if I save this, check it out on the browser, it's not showing any loading. But let's say I come and make this true by default and save it. You can see that this is actually showing up. So that is the idea about it. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I'm removing this because this is not supposed to be there. All right, and make sure that I comment out this. All right, this can also stay because this only shows up if there is an error. All right, if it contains an error object, because you can see here that it's null by default. Fantastic. So that is for this place. The next thing we want to do is whenever we're entering new values, we want some certain activities to happen. What do I mean by that? So let me copy this function and show you what we're saying. So I have a function here called handle address check. Handle address check. So what does it do? Or handle address change. All right. Change. So whenever you change the address in this wallet, we want that particular function to fire. Okay, and to do that, we can quickly just append it to this place, to this function. On the onChange function, what should happen? We want to pass in an event on it. So we want to say handle change, or want the event.target.value. All right. Okay, so this set of data, we want to we're passing whatever address that is being passed in here, we're passing into this place here. So that is what is happening. So when this happens, the address now, this one, okay, will be updated with this new address that you're passing in here. And then the default value, which is info here, will be replaced with nothing because we want, and the error is also going to be replaced with nothing, so that whenever we can then click on this button. So when I'm entering a new value here, let's say I copy this address here, copy this, and I put it here, you see that disappears. So we want to do that such that it's only when we click on this search, click on search, it will load that, it will grab that contract and display information about it for us here. So that is the idea here. So to do that, we're going to need another function. Man, I just feel like the name I'm giving this is not very great, so I'm just going to revert it to what it was, before we started. All right, NFT contract address search. Yeah. So want to hook up a button here. In this button here, I want something. I want you to know something. For example, as I'm changing this address will be updated with a new one. So before I want to submit this, but I want to click this search button, want to check, okay, using this function here, want to check if this is a valid address. So is this a valid address? You should continue. But if it's not a valid address, we want this to stay disabled. So this means that let me make sure that this is, so this means that whether it is empty or not, this is going to show disabled. So for example here, let me remove this, right? And you can see that when I hover to this, you can see this little hand right there. But by the time I save this, okay, if this is not valid, it's not valid. You can see that that hand is not coming out, and whatever I type here, it still will not be enabled. It will only be enabled if I am using a correct Ethereum wallet address. Fantastic. So that is for that place. The next thing I want to do is a function that we can attach to that button. We want to call that function, want to call it that we can attach to this button. I want to call it search token or search token. Okay, so this search token should be a function that we can then create here. All right, so we can say const search token. No, come on, search token. All right, so this is going to be an asynchronous function. All right, and it's going to go perform some certain piece of information for us and then return the result. So that is basically what is going to happen, what it's going to do. Okay, but for now, all I'm going to do is to just log out what the address is. So I'm going to say log out the address that has been entered on that form. So with that, when I save this and then I come here, checking it out, okay, and then say search, you can see it's logging out the result, the address quite fine. That is just all it is for this particular section. So in the next section, I want to be able to perform the API call, because I want to develop a backend, okay, that we fetch this data for us instead of this being dummy here. I want to fetch it from an API, and it's going to talk to the blockchain and retrieve that information and then display it for us. Then we'll be able to interact with it. So let's do that in this section. So let's create an API, an endpoint. Okay, go to this folder called pages API and then create a new endpoint there. Let's call this one get account information. .js. Make sure it's in JS. Okay, so this is the function that I want to work on right now. So what does this do for me? First thing I want to do is I need two important I'm importing ethers.js, and then I'm actually creating a function called from which we that we're grabbing balances from the chain. So we want to be able to convert that balance into a regular a number that you can understand, because these currencies, the values are often coming in a big number, which big number, which is too much for you can't really comprehend it. Okay, so you need to convert it into a format which you can understand. So this function does that for us. All right, so the next thing we want to do is that, because we'll be speaking to both contracts and we are specifically targeting ERC 721 contracts, okay, and regular regular account, which could mean regular smart contract account or a regular user account. Okay, so that's why we're using this API. we're not using everything about the ABI. We're just going to use some, functions that we know that every ERC7 token often have, which is balance of, total supply, support interface, name, symbol, and owner. So we need all this sort of information to be able to access their corresponding data in, ERC 721 smart contracts. All right. So once you do this, there is a certain a setup. This is how basically you set up an endpoint with NextJs to just declare this. Okay. So we're saying export default. This is an asynchronous function. And then you put this thing called handler. So one endpoint is equal to one file. So you put one endpoint in one file, and that is how you do it, okay? To make things simpler and easier for you. So what do I need? I will need to grab something called from this request here. This request, there is an attribute called a query, all right? Okay, query, we're grabbing the address that we're going to send the address. So when we're talking to this endpoint, we're going to be passing the contract address or the Ethereum address that we want to grab information about. So we're passing the address here. After that, I'm going to wrap this in a try catch block. And inside this try catch block, I will say if there is any error, I just want it to log it to the console. All right, so we say console.log, say error, and then, okay, that error, we then say this error, okay? So that is not the only thing, but we want to also respond, okay? Remember, we have this response. So we want to respond with a status of 500. I want to append JSON to it, and we're explaining the error to be internal, server error. All right, so this is basically how the response of any error, within what we're about to implement right now. So afterward, I want to do something simple. I want to do this. So I'm saying const provider is equal to new ethers. So we're using this library called ethers dot provider, and the provider we're using is JSON RPC. Since this is a server-side render, server-side interaction is a backend interaction. You can't use MetaMask. You can't use a Web3 provider. You have to use JSON RPC. Okay, and this I'm going to create a URL here, an RPC URL. Okay, so I'm going to come to the bottom of this and say right click and create a new file, call it .env. All right, in this .env, I'm going to do this and cool. All right, so I'm going to grab an RPC URL which we can get from Infuria. So I'm going to go to Infuria. All right, so I'm going to go to my dashboard on Infuria. If you've not signed up, you can sign up so that you can get access to one of your dummy projects. So I'm just going to use this, my test RPC I normally use. I'm using this Ethereum mainnet, so because that is where the blockchain I'm intending on interacting with. So I'll come back here. So this is the RPC URL. So I'm going to save that. Okay, now come here. You can see that this is where I'm using that RPC URL. So I'm pasting it here. It's the same thing. So all right, so I'm just using best practices. So afterward, you want to actually instantiate that smart contract if it's a smart contract, So we are saying contract is equal to this new ethers, and I'm saying calling .contract. And what are you passing into contract? You're passing in the address that you want to communicate with. You're trying to validate that address that you're trying to validate. You're also passing this ABI, okay, which is this ERC721 ABI, and then this provider, which is what you just created right now, which is the JSON RPC provider. All right, so you're passing all of those things there. Now, you want to create like a standard or some form of a dummy object. So let me do that for you. So I'm going to do something like this. Okay, so this is an object I'm creating called account info, and I'm only adding this address. All right, in ES6 module, in ES6 syntax and above, if the name of the variable is the same as the key, you can actually just represent it like this. So this means the same thing as this. All right, so that's why we're just writing it the same way. All right, so there we have it. Now I'm going to wrap this inside another try catch block because of why this line. All right, I'm going to paste this line. Okay, if you don't wrap this inside another try catch block, you're going to have an error. Why? Because you see, when this support interface, when you're calling this contract, and this specific address that you're calling is not like a smart contract address, or it's not an ER721 contract, this is going to produce an error, and that error kind of crashes the entire thing. So instead of that being a situation, we want to intelligently be able to handle that error and just make it just understand that that is not an ER721 smart contract, and then find a different way of representing it. So that's why we're going to wrap this in a try catch block. So yeah, so now I'm going to paste this in here. Okay, so this support interface, so we're trying to say if it supports ERC721 token, this is how we use in testing that. All right, so if it does support ERC721 token, I want to do some certain, create some certain keys. So I'm going to say this account info that I just created, I'm going to add a key called type, and that type is based on whether this is an ERC721, contract or not. So I'm checking, is it an ERC721? Does it support ERC721? If it supports, it's going to be what? Okay, ERC7 token contract. Otherwise, it's going to be what? Nah, it's not an ERC721 contract. So, and then this one also is a key that I use in checking. It's going to be holding Boolean. So I'm checking, is this a contract? So true or false. So if it's a contract, this return true or false, okay? And that becomes the value of this, all right? So afterward, I'm just going to fill up this because I'm going to populate this object with more important data, which is, for example, so if this is supported, ERC721 supported, I want to grab the contract name, I want to grab the contract symbol, I want to grab the total supply. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm grabbing the total supply by saying this whole thing, and converting it to a string, all right? Because if you don't convert it to a string, it doesn't quite work out. So we're converting it to a string. Okay, this is total supply, and then the balance. Okay, I'm grabbing the balance of this specific address. All right, so this is a method, await provider.getBalance, and then I'm passing the wallet address. It grabs me the balance of this specific contract. All right, and okay, so we can grab it like this and put it inside this word, inside this place. So this object now contains this address and all of these other ones here. Okay, so with that, if everything is successful, this is what is going to return. Okay, it's going to return this object at the end of the day. Okay, so otherwise, if there is any error, that means if it does not support ERC721 token, it's going to result in an error here, and the error, we want to also provide that information intelligently. So we want to say that support error, so it doesn't support ERC721, and want to say the type. This type is what? The type of this account is non-ERC721 contract, and it is not a contract, so that's why we're saying false. and also the account balance, we're grabbing it because this could be a user. All right, so we'll later refactor this to see if we can make it better, but because these two things are basically repeating, we can just bring it into this object and that will be fine. All right, so if everything goes well, we just want to what? Respond, whatever it is, whatever the fate of these two is going to either give us this set of values or this set of values. So we're just responding with the account data. Okay, so with that, we're saving this and let's start making use of it here. Okay, to make use of it here, we'll be making use of it here in this search token. Okay, this is where we'll consume this this wonderful endpoint that we just created. So the first two steps in us being able to search for a token or an address or any one of those things, we want to call it import a contract or whatever, so just say set loading to what true. So basically, once we hit that search button, it's going to start showing us loading, and then we want to set this error to null in case there was something there already. I want a try catch situation here. So the try catch thing we want to do is to just make sure that we set this thing. So we're setting this one to what? False. It's no longer loading at this point, and the error should be what? The error should be just null. Okay, great. All right, and then I want to also set this account information to null in case there is any error. So that is when we're doing all this. Otherwise, I'm going to use Axios, okay, to interact with this interface. To do that, I'm going to just open another terminal and run yarn add Axios, okay, and click enter. All right, so this is going to import. So Axios is installed, and now that it's installed, we can import it and start using it. Okay, so jumping in here, so after I set this loading to be true and error to be false, to be null, I could now say const, I say response. Okay, I'm gonna await Axios, okay, dot get. All right, I'm making that request to that API, and this side is, I'm going to use backtick, and this slash API. So once you do slash API, it knows that you're trying to access the APIs in this page. So you have to use that particular method, slash API. Then you actually say, in fact, I'm going to just pick up the name of this file. I will say, get contract information, because the name of the file is actually the endpoint itself. All right. And of course, to put a query string, because how we instruct this is that it needs to get the query from the request. Okay. So I'm going to pass in this question mark here, and I'm going to say address. Okay. That name address has to be the same as this. Okay. Address is equal to, then I cannot interpolate this address here. Okay, this one. So that's why I'm passing this address here. All right. So with this, I'm going to say const account data is equal to this response that I'm getting from my endpoint. Okay, dot data. All right. So when I get that data, I want to just set, I want to set account information with that account data that I just extracted from my endpoint. But before I move on to this part of it, I could just, hold on. I'm doing this in the wrong place. I'm going to move it into this try catch place. Okay. So before I actually set that I could just log it to the console. All right, so I'm going to log this to the console just to validate that it's actually working. So I'm going to paste this here and save this. Come to the browser. Okay, this is an account that we have here already. So I'm gonna come here, just right here, and click on paste this, click on search. You can see that it's showing loading, and you see that it returns some vital information from inside. Like this is non-ERC contract, okay? So I also have some contract address like this one here, okay? I'm gonna paste this here and click on search, okay? And you see it returns another piece of information from me concerning that smart contract. This is an ERC7 token contract. You can see the name, information, and even the total supply, the balance, you see that this one doesn't have any money inside of it. Let's say, so that kind of shows that this works. So now let's populate those information in the view here. And now to do it, all we just need to do is to just set this, okay? And once we set that, we can also say we want to set loading to be false, so that it can stop that thing from continually loading, okay? So let's save that and just check it out on the page. Okay, so I'm going to use one of these accounts, okay? Come here. Now let's refresh this. Okay, so everything is almost done here. This is not good. This is not what we're looking for. So let's just remove this dummy data that we using before. So I'm going to replace the account information default to what? Null, and remove this. This is not necessary anymore. So with this, I'm going to save that, come back here. This should go, yeah. So I'm going to paste this here and click on search. And you see that this is loading, and you see successful. It's actually grabbed me that mutant API club, what's it called? Data. You can see this is always different for every smart contract. For every address, it's going to be different. This is identical, React identical. It takes, look at it. It takes, let me break this down so that you can see what is happening here. So it takes a string of, text. So since the address is always unique for each one of those contract, user, and whatsoever, we use this to generate unique patterns for each one of those, data. So another example, let me use this. This is a save so contract. Do this, paste, and search. And then, it appears here, and it can show you the balance as well. This one has some ethers. And one thing you should know here, I kind of redirected each one of them. Like when you click on each one of those results that pops up, it's going to take you to where they are on the ether scan. Okay, that's why I'm actually adding this right here. So it takes you to where it is on Etherscan. Okay, and you can see the details about that particular contract or address, what has been taking place in it, and so on. So this is basically it. But take a note, for OpenSea, when you click on it, let's say OpenSea, when you click on any data that you supply here like this, okay, so when I click on this, it returns that particular address, and when I click on it, it takes me to that collection. All right, this is the idea behind, this is a prerequisite to this idea where you can actually, people call it auto importing of contracts, okay, into your marketplace, but basically it's just grabbing those information, and you can decide to store that information on your database, okay, which will now make it look like what? Saved souls, stuff like this. You can give it a unique, what's it called? You can actually take that contract address, and then the name of that contract, you can kind of rebrand it into a slug, okay, a URL slug, or a unique naming pattern that you want. Okay, so this is just it. This is how you display a page like this. This is what it means by auto importing of contracts into your NFT marketplace, okay, which is a fantastic example of how you can use this to convert it into something, such as with this, you being able to enter the addresses, and then it just takes you to where that is, or it just list it out for you on your marketplace. So with that said, this is where we kind of draw it to conclusion for this specific tutorial. And then in coming tutorials, we're going to see how we can do something like this, in the sense we can enter the contract address, and it will actually list out those NFT record instead of going instead of going to the Etherscan. It's going to actually list out contracts, collections that are part of a smart contract for you, ERC7 based, basically. So with that said, I'm Darlington, and check out everything there is to check out about us. Check out the description area. There's some courses. There's also our Discord channel there, which you can join to ask your questions and all of that. So with that said, I'm gonna see you in the next tutorial. Bye.